Right, so let's jump right into this aspect of it about what middle management actually is for CPS.
Yeah, so schools, all of CPS's roughly 500 schools are grouped into networks, largely based on where they are in the city. And these networks have network chiefs and network teams. One of their big roles is evaluating principals and giving them feedback on their performance. But they're also generally a place where school leaders can go when they have some kind of issue that they're dealing with. So the networks service sort of a middleman between the schools and central office.
So why are they reconsidering this or considering this restructure?
Well, we heard about a couple of big reasons this is under consideration. One is this idea that maybe there should be a more direct way for schools to connect to central office. And so basically this level of middle management can be a little more nimble and responsive to schools when they need something. But also clearly a part of this is money. The district would be able to save some dollars on administrative positions, and they're saying that that would allow them in the longer run to steer more money directly to schools.
And that's a big part of it. We just learned that they just lost another like $8 million for the school district this morning. So let's talk about the timing of it. I was mentioning a few moments ago, they've been through so much change in the last several months. Talk about the timing and like why now and what this will mean.
Well, from what I understand, this is the beginning of a conversation in CPS. They have really stressed that no decisions have been made, and they're still exploring different ways this could be done. I am not clear on exactly what the timeline is and when they're hoping to accomplish this. Something to consider is in the budget that the school board recently passed, there are about $50 million in cuts, including some cuts to administrative positions. And in my understanding, these changes would help the district deliver on some of these cuts that are already baked into the budget. So I'm sure that folks in the district are closely watching what might happen with federal funding over this clash with the Trump administration that you mentioned. But the district is already on the hook to make some cuts to administrative positions. So this might be its way to deliver on some of these reductions that are already assumed or included in the current budget.
So it sounds like if this were to happen, right, because we know this beginning stages, like you said, that it really wouldn't change day-to-day things for the students or their families necessarily.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know when I first heard about this, my first thought was, would any family or parent reading about this really care or even make sense of what the implications of this change would be? I don't know that many of us as CPS parents really have these networks on our radar. I think, so it seems like a bit of an inside baseball thing, but they have been a long-standing part of the district's culture and the way it's structured and functions. But I do think that some principals and some teachers kind of occasionally question how much do these networks truly do, and do we need the kind of the level of staff in that middle management layer that we currently have?
Yeah, you know, that's one of the first people we should think about are the teachers.
Exactly, that's what I was going to hit on, is the fact that when you talk about middle management, yeah, people like pay attention to this whole CEO, superintendent aspect of things because that's the top of the top for the district, but maybe not so much what's happening in the middle, but it has its own impacts, especially for the educators.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would also hear from, and we had a few principal voices in our reporting earlier this year, or earlier this week. And we heard from some principals saying, maybe it would make sense for the district to be a little leaner in that layer. And we heard from others saying, I do get a lot of help and support, guidance, troubleshooting from my network chief, and it's very unsettling to think that this person could potentially go away, especially in the middle of the school year.
Mila, I don't know how much you look, but what has been the response from some of the readers who've looked at your piece?
We haven't heard a whole lot yet directly, but I can tell you that a surprising number of readers are reading that piece. Even though my first thought when I heard that this was happening was that maybe not many people would care. I think people do care, especially people who work in CPS and have a lot of questions about what this might look like and how it might affect them. And we still have questions as well.
Yeah, I think anything that has like CPS restructuring put on it, people are going to look to see what is the restructuring and what does that mean for me. And I do think that, when you talk about like middle management, sometimes the upper echelon of the management can seem a little far away. Like if I have a question, it's going to take a lot for that question to permeate through the layers to get to that person, versus maybe having somebody who's a little bit more tied to me, which is maybe to the point that they were making.
Yes, exactly. That's something that some school leaders really appreciate.
Yeah.
And it probably at the end of the day depends on who is this network chief. Is it somebody who is responsive and who works well with principals, or not so much?